All right, so we're going to take a little time and do a follow-up conversation after Dr. Julie's talk on Sunday for our ALS community. Thank you, Julie, for being with us here and taking a little extra time.
Oh, absolutely. It's my pleasure. Thank you, James.
Yeah, so I mean, there was a lot covered, and maybe there's a couple things that you wanted to clarify that would help people to get the most out of the information.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that we're talking about is for people to begin to feel more of their emotions. And I think what's really important to be clear about is feeling more emotions initially isn't always a good experience, right? You don't always feel better initially. You're going to feel more. And the more emotion you feel, eventually you will feel better. But what does better mean? It means you're going to have more vitality. You're going to have a little bit more joy or peace or happiness. But you're also going to be feeling more sadness, more loss, more grief. The idea is that we do feel more, right? As human beings, we have emotions, and our emotions are our birthright, if you will. To be healthy and vital, we need to feel them. If we don't, they get pushed down below the surface where they are affecting us. Even if we don't know those emotions are there, they're affecting us one way or another. They're affecting our immune system, they're affecting our autonomic nervous system, they're affecting our endocrine system, and so forth. So we really want to be able to look below the surface of our awareness and see if there's unresolved emotions from trauma there.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that one of the things that, at least that I've noticed, is um, once that sort of that excessive charge, emotional charge that's kind of been hidden from us has been reached and has been given a chance to be expressed and processed and integrated, it seems to me that it that things are a lot less triggering. Like I'm less reactive, I've noticed, and I'm wondering if that's one of the, so it's hard at first and you feel things and it's uncomfortable, but eventually you get to a place of equanimity, more balance, a sense of agency and autonomy. Is that one of the results?
Absolutely. I love what you just said, James. And especially the piece about being triggered initially. If we're being triggered, that means there's something within us. It's not out there, the person or the situation that's triggering us. It's not them. It's something in us that's allowing us to know there's something looking to be resolved. And you're right, once we work through that and integrate it, we do become a lot more balanced and then become much less triggered, which is a nice way to be.
Yeah, and I think in particular related to the challenges of ALS and a family that's going through this, that's in this crisis, that there's so many things happening and so many demands being placed that I think the value of this work in that scenario is just the ability to have a little more flow and smoothness, maybe a little less friction and more love and compassion in the environment. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that sounds wonderful, right? That's what people seem to want. And but we have to know what we want first, right? So this is part of the self-inquiry. Like if anybody comes to work with me, I always say to them, what is it you want from our work together? We have to know what we want. And then once we have an idea of what it is that we want, maybe something like, being more at peace with the situation that I'm in, being more compassionate towards myself and others, right? To live in love and loving and receiving love and maybe with some grace. So then we have to look below the surface to see what's going on that's stopping us from living that way anyway. Right? And this is really important for us to be able to look below the surface. Some people have a little bit of a resistance to meditation or to contemplative practices. Um, But these are proven practices that allow us to look below the surface with a bit more ease.
Mm.
And the resistance to that holds a lot of keys in and of itself. So whenever resistance comes up, let's look at that resistance itself. Who's resisting and resisting what? What's that about? And that often gives us a whole lot of clues um, of what's below the surface.
Mhm. Yeah, and I was thinking in relationship to meditation, contemplative practices. I was noticing in the exercises that you gave us during the talk that in lieu of being able to sit with you and do deep trauma therapy, what we can do, it feels to me like, is care for ourselves with those heart meditations where we come to our place of feeling and we feel what's there and we bring that sense of what are we, what do we want, like what kind of state of being are we looking for ourselves, whether it's peace or acceptance or patience or whatever it may be. That then those are the kinds of things that we can really integrate right away. And in fact, Julie, I heard from somebody who was on the call whose young daughter has ALS, and she was saying she was already putting the meditations into practice and feeling quite a bit better under very difficult conditions. So,
Yes, good to hear.
yeah. So, is that true though? I mean, do you feel like, I mean, those kinds of practices can make a big difference even if we aren't, doing trauma therapy per se?
Absolutely, absolutely. But it's going to be different for everyone. And what I always try to bring, if we're giving a larger talk or a talk to a larger audience, is to give practices that are somewhat simple yet proven to be powerful, right? Like the loving kindness or the heart meditations. They've been proven to change brain states, to change body states. And if we can cultivate a positive feeling in our heart center and then visualize a more positive future for ourselves, it's more likely to come about, right? If we can have the visual, the intent, and the feeling, the outcome just might come.
Mm.
You know? So that heart meditation is really powerful for that. Now, not everybody's going to be able to drop into their heart center. Some people might find it really difficult. There are scenarios in trauma when it's been so bad in childhood that we've abandoned our heart, right? And so some people can get very frustrated because they have this horrible empty feeling, or they can never get a nice feeling here, or it's just too painful. In
Mm.
that case, then we need to explore something else. And, so we want to try these meditations. If they don't work, we want to look a little bit deeper and see why or what's going on that they're not, and then go to another step. But often, if that's the case, right, we have to work more on an individual basis. In a big talk, we're speaking generally.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah, and that's, I think, the benefit of our trauma healing circle that we do have each month. That even if someone isn't doing their own individual piece of work, they can still experience the value of the therapy and recognize some of those same things perhaps going on within themselves, and then continue to allow that to unfold on their own.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when you're observing and in the field of somebody else doing a deep piece of trauma work, that resonant enters into your own field, either with a sense of compassion, love, or you feel the pain, but then it also can become resolved within you as well as it does for the other person.
Yeah. So, are there any other specific things related to Sunday that you wanted to clarify as far as just how people can integrate these kinds of practices into their daily lives, even as they live with all the challenges of ALS, whether they have the disease or are caring for someone.
Mhm. Well, it's really cutting out time for practice. Right? We have to put a little bit of effort in to see some kind of change happen, right? So, like I said, if you do that heart meditation for 3 minutes, it's been shown that change will begin to occur, right? We're creating pathways in the heart, if you will, that will begin to change the pathways in the brain. So it's not too hard to find 3 minutes, right? A few times a day.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the thing to realize and remember is that it's not like it has to be a hugely time consuming or super intensive kind of thing, but the discipline to get to it on a daily basis, it accumulates very quickly, don't you think?
Yeah, yeah. We just have to do something a little bit different every day. We tend to be so habitual in what we do, right? But if you wake up first thing in the morning, rather than getting out of bed and doing whatever you habitually do, if you do a 3 minute heart meditation on gratitude or calmness or love, it has the potential to change your whole day. Yeah. And when you sit down for lunch, maybe before you start to eat, right, you do that heart meditation. Or if you have ALS, you know, finding times where you can take those 3 minute pauses to do a practice can really change how you relate to yourself with the disease.
Hmm. Yep.
And then also knowing and doing these practices where we're opening up the heart, we might begin to feel more. We might begin to allow those emotions that we haven't felt from the past to come up. So we want to be aware of that. Right? So more difficult emotions might come.
Hmm.
The idea is we're doing these resource meditations on the heart to have a resource that if things get too difficult, we can go back to this. But if challenging emotions come up, we can still be with them. We don't have to shut them down, but we also don't have to act them out. We can feel them. The idea is to feel our emotions in our body, not act them out towards somebody else, not act them in towards ourselves, but actually feel them in our body as much as we can. If it starts to feel too much, that's when we can go back to, okay, I'm going to cultivate love. I'm going to cultivate gratitude.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think what you're saying brings me to a point that seems somewhat contradictory or paradoxical, and that is this idea that you can experience healing in the midst of a serious illness like ALS. That can you say a few words about what does it mean to be ill with a disease and yet have healing happen at the same time?
Mm. Well, we can have healing from a couple of different perspectives. One is the healing of the disease itself, right? Is that possible? Apparently so. People have had spontaneous healings. But there's another type of healing where we're healing kind of on our own soul journey or our own being journey, where we're healing our pain, where we're healing from our traumas, where we're becoming more whole within ourselves. So even if ALS doesn't go away, we feel better in who we are. We feel more whole. We don't feel broken. Right. So it's the healing of maybe gathering different aspects of ourself that may have split off through our lifetime because of trauma and integrating them back into who we are. So we feel well and whole within ourselves, as opposed to, angry, sad, broken. These are different words that I hear from people. It's a journey worth taking.
Yes, definitely, definitely as well. Julie, really appreciate you taking the extra time to do this follow up, and we'll make this recording available to people so that they can go a little deeper with the conversation that we had last weekend. So thank you very much for taking the time.
Yeah, you're welcome, James. Thank you.